I've had some concerns about the proper procedures for going in and out.
Mm-hmm.
So at this time, until I'm more familiar and more comfortable with it, I would like to abstain for approving and coming out. Just from you all may be more familiar with some of it and feel more comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I'd just like it recorded in the minutes.
Okay.
Also, if I could ask this question before we get started, I noticed in the code it says that minutes may be recorded. They're not required for closed session. And I'm sure this is something that you all have addressed way down the road, and there was a decision made not to. Can you kind of update me as to why we don't do that?
All I can relate to is when I first started way back when, the direction of the board at that time was to not do it.
Not do it, okay.
I can't capitalize on anything more.
Sure. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Has something changed over the last year that you've been voting to go in and out of closed session?
Some things have been brought to my attention, and then, trying to be prudent, and then also, when I ran for the office, it was about being careful about closed session. So it's kind of more of a thing in particular to me. The other thing that kind of concerns me too is I guess in the past I had looked to legal counsel, and as I'm looking at the code, legal counsel is not responsible if we don't do this right. This comes back to us, which I was kind of surprised. So it's a whole new ball game for me. So not to contaminate anything for anybody else, but.
So abstain from session itself, or?
Well, I'm going to abstain from approving it and then from verifying it. That's okay. Is that all right?
I can't. It's your. I can't say anything about it.
Okay. Just until I'm more familiar with it.
We'll call the meeting to order, and I need a motion to go into closed session.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that based on the Code of Virginia, Section 2.2-3711, we go into closed session to discuss A1 personnel matters, A5 industrial business prospects, and A7 legal.
Mr. Bliss, may I ask? Mr. Lane?
I don't have any updates.
On A7?
For A7, no.
Yeah, we didn't receive, so we don't need A7. We didn't have that response prior to.
So that would be for A1 personnel matters and A5 industrial business prospects.
Second. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained?
Abstain.
I'll call the meeting back to order. I'd like to, I'd like for Ms. Kendra Hayden's going to lead the invocation, and Ms. Heather Street's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for today and the opportunity to gather together and work for your good. I ask that you guide and direct the hearts and minds of our county leaders and the protection of our citizens. Let us all remember we are meant to be examples of your love and grace, and let our actions show that character. Be with us in all we say and do. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and welcome everybody here. I'd like to get a motion about closed session.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that based on the Code of Virginia, Section 2.2-3711, we'll end the closed session to discuss A1 personnel matters and A5 industrial business prospects.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained?
I'll abstain due to the fact that
Two abstentions. I need a motion for the adoption of the agenda and the additional agenda as presented. Second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? I need a motion for the minutes of our last meeting of January the 8th of 2019.
Move to approve.
Motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor? Mr. Carter, you wanna do the financial status, please, sir?
Yes, sir. Before you should have a packet, you should see by now, the first page, identify the revenue summary. These are reports that have been derived from our mainframe computer system. If you look at the first page, it actually says page 2. Page 1 is just a filler page for page 2. Go down to Fund 1. You had an original $24,094,680 in revenue factored in for that. Your year-to-date is $21,878,890.67. So you've got a remaining $2,215,789.33 left over the next March, April, May, and June. So you're well on track for that. The remaining pages all the way back to page 6 are summaries of your other funds that are included in your budget. I encourage you to look through those. If you look at the bottom of page 6, under your budget amount, column is 87,634,888. That's the number you adopted back in June. Your next column is 87,888,151, which is the amount that's been amended over the course of time thus far. You have a current amount, $5,929,565.78, and a year-to-date amount of revenues of $53,292,193, with a remaining balance of $34,595,957.91, or 39%. So the revenues appear to be pretty much in line and on track. The next page is an expenditure. It's basically the other side of the report on the revenues. Again, I'll hit page 1, which is the Fund 1 portion. In this one, you had a budget amount of $24,408,637. Current amount of $2,526,234.94. Your year-to-date is $13,240,471.10, with an unencumbered balance of $11,165,824, or about 45% left of the budget that was set aside for Fund 1 expenditures. That actually is ahead. It's good at this point in the year. Your remaining pages 2, 3, 4, and 5 again are the summaries on the expense side of each of those funds that actually go back to your revenues. At the bottom of page 5, again, your budgeted amount, $87,634,888. Your amended thus far of $87,888,151. You have a current amount of expenditures of $7,612,498.49. Your year-to-date is $45,771,851.65, and you have an unencumbered on expenditures of about $42,116,299. Again, around 48%, which almost 8 months into your budget. That's a good number to have. The difference overall in your revenues and expenditures at this point in the budget, your revenues are greater than your expenses by $7,520,341.44. If you flip to the next page, it's a summary of the expenses comparison for each department. You can go down those columns, beginning with Board of Supervisors and ending with Police Activities 744 Fund. You get to the bottom, you'll see in 19, we have a total of $1,091,002.68. A year ago in 18, $896,581.52. So we're $194,421.16 over where we were a year ago. A lot of that, if you look, is around the CSA. There's an increase there. Those are mandated expenses. We have an increase in the regional jail population, and we have purchased a piece of equipment in the 911 central dispatch that has an offset grant amount. So all in all, we're really close on that particular report. The next page is just a summary that goes back comparing the months from 11-12 all the way up to 18-19. And just as a comparison, I like to run these, but basically you can see from a year ago, in 17-18, end of January, we were $9,406,927. This year we're $9,341,084, so we're $65,000 less on that comparison. The next page is the sheets we received from the Treasurer's Office. We combined those to guide along with the flipping. There's a lot of flipping in these reports. The left column is a 2018 amount, the right column is a 2019. I'll just start at the top. Bank balance, CD investments in 18 was $15,243,407.38. The equivalent in 19 was $15,274,469.20. So we're $31,061.82 above in 19. Your deposits in 18 January was $5,118,919.18. Your deposits in 19, $5,310,666.16. So we're $191,746.98 ahead in deposits for January. The expenses in 18, $6,551,529.61. Likewise in 19, $6,527,644.76. So we're $23,884.85 less in 19 in expenditures. Come down to the subtotal. In 18 was $13,810,796.95. 19 was $14,057,490.60. So we're ahead in the subtotal by $246,693.65. The unspent, which is in 18, was $869,254.11. In 19, it's $688,595.82. So we've reduced our unspent carry by $180,658.29. And then we get to the balance number. That's the magic one. In 18 January, we had a balance of $12,941,542.84. In 19, we have a balance of $13,368,894.78. So we're ahead in overall balance by $427,351.94. One thing that I have shared with the budget committee, I share with the entire board. If you read right below that, it talks about the police activity fund. And I think Sheriff Schuler's here, so this is no news to him as well. But in 18, we had a fund balance which is included in that balance of $12,941,542 in 18 of $1,144,488.94. In 19, we have a fund balance of $715,920.81. So that's a reduction of $428,568. And with that reduction, that number impacts that balance number, but it also demonstrates that even though there is that change, that negative change in that fund balance, the overall balance is still increased by $427,351. So that's a quick summary on that. The next page is again how we get to those numbers. 2018, we had a bank balance deposits of $23.62, $326.56. Those numbers match the previous on the other page. And then there's an explanation of how we got to that balance of $12,941,542.84. Basically, it looks at unspent. You can go down in social services for 18 and unspent in this month. A year ago, $89,609.48. School and capital outlay, $618,412.55. General county was $161,232. And then the state treasurer welfare was $117,942. Comparing that to the 19 number again, adding the bank balance and deposits of $25,851,35.36. Then you remove these items off. Remaining unspent for social services this year, $121,379.37. School and capital outlay, $529,330.87. And general county of $37,885.58. State treasurer, once again, $121,592. So that identifies what numbers were used and created to get those current balances. The next page is a page that the treasurer's office tracks that deals with the Smyth County water sewer balance from 18 and 19, as well as the uncollected county taxes. I think the treasurer came by a meeting or so ago and went over those. And then your final report within that packet is the accountability report that comes straight from the treasurer's office. I encourage you to take time and look over those, become familiar with those. When you get to your appropriations today on your additional agenda, I can tell you that the necessary funds are there should you choose to consider and appropriate all that.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Is there any questions for the financial statement? I'm going to go ahead and go through appropriations before we hit citizens' time. Accounts payable listing of $1,091,068. Payroll, $708,470.09. Auto draft rural development, $8,974. AEP CenturyLink bills, $25,000. County administration fund, $5,000. For total county appropriations plus carryover of $1,830,000. Yes, sir.
May I make a comment?
Yes, sir.
Could you reread the accounts payable listing number that you have, please?
$1,091,002.68.
Because
Did I say that wrong?
I think it came out wrong the first time. I just wanted to clarify that.
Not the sharpest tool in the shed, if I could be correct. So I need a motion for the,
Second.
any more discussion? All those in favor? Social services, February 13th through February the 28th of 19, $350,000. March 1st to March the 12th of 2019, $60,000. Total social services, $410,000.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor? School operating fund, instruction, $2,850,000. Administration, attendance, and health, $110,000. Transportation, $140,000. Facilities, $350,000. School food service, $350,000. Technology, $75,000. Total school operating fund of $3,875,000.
So moved.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? EDA Fund 4, $28.80.
So moved. Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Recovery Court, $749, $29,293.55.
So moved.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Sheriff Fund 748, $7,604.37.
So moved.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Thank you very much. It's 15 after. I'll open citizens' time. Mr. Robert Owens, if you would come state your name and address, please, for the record.
Robert Owens, 213 Rolling Creek Lane, Marion, Virginia. Most of you know probably why I'm already here, about this rouse out on Mountain else that we've been dealing with. Nothing has changed, except it's got worse. My understanding is that Mr. Campbell has sent them a letter, and they have responded. I don't know what the response was, but it hadn't done anything except get worse. When they had the trooper's funeral they rant and raved all day long, within a half a mile of the church. I mean, I know there's no law that says they can't, but it's respect. These people don't respect themselves, much less anyone else. We're now getting calls, I am, from people down there about the mess in the road, demanding that I come and clean it up. Until my court case goes through, I'm not allowed on the property, my own property. Here's some pictures so I don't pass around and look. The mess that they're dealing with. We can't go in there and do anything with it. They've apparently have the drain tile stopped up with mud and debris and I don't know what else to where it can't go into the creek, but now it's coming down the right-of-way out into the road. And I've called the state police went by there, of course it had already dried up, and most of the traffic had fit most of the dirt off. But he said he would keep an eye on it, but I hadn't heard anything else from him. Until y'all do something that's got some teeth, that takes a bite out of their billfold or gives them an option of doing something for jail time, it's never going to get any better. And, I mean, the sheriff's department's told me that, you know, technically there ain't nothing they can do with them. Got to go to court. So, until y'all can do something or the court can do something, it's never going to get any better. I don't know, I mean, I'm not an attorney. I don't know what kind of laws, how to go about it. Apparently they are, but I don't know whether it's got shoved on the back burner since Mr. Campbell's in Richmond or what it is, but it's, apparently it's at a standstill.
Mr. Owens, Mr. Chairman, these, you mind I ask you a couple questions?
No, go ahead.
This one, they got stopped up, see, the one out on State Highway?
Let me show you which one. What. This is the mud in the road after the rain quit.
Okay.
This one I'm coming down the right of way here. This is a state road. Right here is the right of way going up in there where the water's coming out of.
It's, this your property here?
Well, it belongs to my brother-in-law. My property's back up in behind here. They go across my brother-in-law, which is Rick Ferris. He's here.
All right, and you're telling me you're not allowed on your own
No.
property? Can you tell me why?
I filed a restraining order against her. And on the 22nd of June, that night about 12 o'clock, she filed charges against me, and they arrested me on Saturday.
Arrested you? Did
Yeah.
they arrest her?
No. They arrested me on Saturday, charged me with hindering use of right-of-way, stalking, and something else. Can't remember what else it was.
Who arrested you, Sheriff?
Sheriff's Department. She filed charges at 12 o'clock on the 22nd, 12 o'clock at night on the 22nd. The magistrate told me that if I was to go back down there before this went to court, she'd have revoked my bond and had me locked up
If you went back on?
if I went back on my property. I haven't been on my property since the 22nd of June.
All right, can I, hang on one second. Know anything about when this is going to court?
We provided an update at the last meeting.
I know you did, but I hadn't heard of no court date. I want it in court.
Well, now my court case has been postponed again. It was supposed to went to court sometime this month.
Do we have a court date?
No,
You tell your boss when you get back, I want a court date.
yes.
They've done had a chance to respond to their end of it, haven't they?
According to what I have talked to them, they have responded.
All right, let me see what it is.
Them or you?
They did.
I don't think we've got a court date with them, do we?
No, not at this time.
But are we ready to set one?
From the update that I have and provided last month, we're not ready to set a court date.
What's the holdup?
This is under litigation, and it would be my recommendation that this is discussed in closed session.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'm through. I mean, y'all can keep those copies, look at.
You know, do you know whether they're still charging people?
Yes, sir. They sure are. About a half of these vehicles going in and out there are out of state. There was a man went up in there the other day in that mud in a full dress Harley. stayed about 15 minutes and come back out. Boys, you can't tell me, now these people don't work. I don't know where they get assistance, where they don't. I mean, you know, neither one of them works. They've got 7 judgments against the piece of property that they reside on, where their address is. This piece of property they bought and paid $230,000 for 160 acres. Now, where do you get $230,000 by not working? You either hit the lottery or your rich uncle or something other.
Mr. Owens, I apologize for you. I apologize for our zoning. You know, you think you got zoning, and everything's black and white.
Yeah.
As you and I know, we
Oh,
a lot of things are not black and white.
No, there's nothing black and white
You
anymore.
got some good things that don't have no loopholes in it. You know, it's pretty black and white, you can go to court and get something done. If I lived out there, I'd be frustrated. And I apologize, but I tell you what I will do. I thought this was further along in court than what it was. And if we need to go back into closed session and talk about it, we will, but I personally, that's in my district. We'll find out Mr. Campbell or whatever, we'll get this thing to court. Now,
All right.
you know how it is when you go to court?
Oh, yeah. It's slow going.
I understand, you know, if they're still charging, then clearly, in my opinion, they're violating zone. But, you know, as I look into zoning, I don't know that everything's perfect there.
Right. Oh, no, there's nothing perfect. If it was, this would have never happened.
I'm not supposed to be talking while you're talking.
No, that's fine.
This is
I
the issue,
apologize.
and a lot of you don't stay around the supervisor comment time. I want you to come here and get your 10 cents worth. So, we'll look into that and see if we can get this thing going.
I appreciate it. I mean, as long as we're making progress, I know it's slow, but as long as there's progress being made on it, I'm satisfied. As long as, you know, we can see something down the road somewhere that's going to help matters.
They've got into the issue of tearing up a lot of ground out there, and again, I might ask Mr. Carter to check with our building and zone, and you know, you come in to tearing up so much ground, you get in the soil erosion.
Well, that whole 160 acres back there, they have tore all to pieces with four-wheelers and dozers and everything, making mud bogs and everything else.
Do they have dozers back there?
They have had at the time. They've had skid steers and stuff back there.
They charge people to come in there.
Mhm.
They got a business license.
No.
Well,
Maybe we need to look into, make sure they're doing all their proper things as far as soil erosion stuff goes, whatever we can do.
We had contacted DEQ about it. DEQ was supposed to went up there and look. Said they did. I don't know. Nobody's ever seen them up there or anything. But,
You know who you talked to from DEQ?
you remember? His son's the one that talked to him, and I don't know who he talked to.
That contact department of mineral mines, the MME,
No, haven't.
one in Abingdon, they take care of disturbed land
Yeah,
that it has been disturbed and can wash away.
right,
They regulate us all the time over the salt mines.
right.
They will,
All right. Mines and minerals.
yes.
All right.
Washes the soil away, so that's disturbing. the
Right.
soil. Office in Abingdon.
All right, I appreciate it. We'll get in contact with them.
we're turning this into a
Sorry.
big discussion instead of comment time. I just kind of keep that in mind. Just
Well, I
instead of a
I
public.
agree with you. I think these people deserve it, though, as long as.
Well, I understand that, and just to touch base on it, I know that you've been here before, and we've talked with our zoning administrator, and we've talked with our sheriff's department,
Right.
and it's been to the attorney, so,
Right.
it's just not happened yet. Now, where it lays, like we said, we don't know exactly,
Right.
We'll get that update.
Well, like I said, as long as we can say, if somebody can say, yeah, we're making progress toward some kind of an end to it or
And
whatever.
I just feel like that's kind of where, from the board of supervisors standpoint,
Right,
we're responsible for a lot of things, but just saying, hey, stop doing that, that's not what, that. So
Like I say, you
it's
know-
going through where it needs to go through. Some of it's A lot of it's above my pay grade, I know that, so.
As long as
I
y'all can
appreciate
kind
you.
of prod Mr. Campbell along a little bit, we appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. Keep showing up, fellas. That's what I do.
Rick Ferris.
Rick Ferris, and live on 655 Middle Fork Road, and I own the property where the water's running across, and a lot of it's basically like Robert said. Trying to do the right thing, but it seems like, I mean, everything you do, you just run into a brick wall, you get no answers, and just like the last time it was postponed, our case was postponed in court because the judge just picked the wrong day. I mean,
And that's above us. the judge
I mean,
is.
it ain't like he didn't have a month or two to make sure that he had, but it's just like they're covering up for them. I mean, that's what it gets to feeling like. Everywhere you go, well, there's nothing we can do, and it just, and it's like they're bulletproof, and they keep rubbing it in your face every day. When they come in, it wouldn't be so bad if they went to their property and they stayed there. I ain't got no problems with that. But that back and forth, and when they do, they're just digging. Especially if you're out, they just spin and see how much they can destroy and just rub it in your face. But, which I know, like you said, your hands are tied, but if you could help Mr. Campbell, I mean, speed him up a little bit, or, I don't know, we've tried to see why they hadn't even set the court date on theirs where they missed the wrong date, but it's just like they got them covered up, and, well, we don't do nothing to them, and, you know, I've made that comment several times to them, and just goes in one ear and out the other, and it gets frustrating after a while.
May I ask a question from one of these, please? Sure. You say they're still charging people. What's the flow of traffic on the weekends? Is it high? Is there a lot of people coming in and riding?
Yeah, there's several. I had never sat there and counted exactly how many, but it's a lot of times during the week, and especially on weekends, or, you know, they may be as many as 15 or 20 different times, but they're in and out, just back and forth. You know, they don't go in and stay, they're just, and don't matter how wet it is, I mean, they don't have any respect for anybody. It don't matter, just like on the last big snow we had, they come up and unloaded a bunch of four-wheelers, and it's cold, they couldn't get them started, and they run back and forth, and ether or something got them started, and then went to digging and bringing dualies in and out, water running right down, and they're just sideways every which way but straight, and they're digging and just keep digging until they get there.
The reason I asked the question, I know one of the, and I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, but these people mean a lot to me. So one of the reasons I asked that question is I know when they was applying for a zoning permit, they needed a permit for a commercial entrance. Obviously, if they're running a commercial business, there's not a commercial entrance there, so I don't know whether we can get any help from the state or not, but why don't you look into that, Mike? I'll, what's his name down there and ask him if there's anything we can do to apply pressure there.
I'm not disputing that they are, but, and I've followed, I mean, it's kind of borderline your district, my district, and I've followed the whole situation, and I hate what y'all are dealing with. But one thing that's concerning to me, as far as how you all handle it and move forward, they've proclaimed on their social media site or whatever that it's closed. There is no money. There is no donations. So that, in my mind, goes from a zoning issue to I don't know what I don't know who could, I don't know where you go with that, but we, at this board level and at the zoning level, are not here to determine whether they're breaking the law of running a for-profit business or not. We can move the zoning part along, and I'm sorry that it is at a standstill, but we will, I think Mr. Stevenson stressed that we will do that, but I would promote to you all, some of the stuff that, obviously you got civil cases, and I think there's probably more civil cases there than what you're litigating right now. I'm not an attorney, and I'm not here to give you legal advice, but I'm just trying to tell you from this board, our responsibility, if you go and look at what this board is embodied to do, we have a zoning ordinance, and we can uphold that, and it's very subjective. And, but I don't know, to me, whether they're running a for-profit business without proper steps and procedures, to me, that would be a Commonwealth issue. Outside of, us upholding the zoning ordinance, I don't know how much further we could go to help it. So I say that to stress, the civil issue and any other litigation that's out there. I'm not promoting that or saying or trying to give you legal advice. I just don't know where as a body other than zoning, I don't know where and we will do everything we can as a body, as Phil said, to try to hold our zoning policies as tight as they are for everybody in the county. But you got to understand where we're at in it.
Well, that's kind of where we're at. I mean, never have done this and don't know, there's no guidelines of where you're supposed to be or who you're supposed to see. And then you go, like we went to the Forest Service where they was cutting wood and stuff. Well, they went in, oh yeah, they're definitely in trouble because they don't have permit to cut wood. And after about 2 weeks, they come back and said, well, we can't, they wasn't putting up silt fence and they wasn't sewing anything back. They said, well, we can't make them do anything. We can ask that they put up a silt fence. We can ask that they stay out of the creek. And we can ask that, well, that just kind of pat them on the back. And
I'm sorry, I'm lost. Who said that?
the Forest Service.
The Forest Service.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And it was supposed to be in with that erosion outfit and stuff. And, yeah, and they said that they could just ask them not to do this or do that, which, kind of struck out there again, so.
I'm going to get hit with the hammer here for talking to the citizens time, but, that's what we're here for, to talk to you people. Maybe we'll have our zoning building guy by, just drive by and see if there's any violation the county can see. Y'all hang in there. I ain't never seen writing fail. If you're in the right, you're going to win. So, and again, to answer about the county one more time, our attorney is on it, and I hear what Curtis is saying, and, I think, I'm not an attorney, but anyway, that's supposed to go to court, so I think it's headed that way. I think I'm not an attorney again, but I think it'll be up to them to prove that they have shut it down, the business is not there no more, so. Hang in there, so I can tell you. Keep coming.
Right.
We'll give you some kind of answer, whether you like it or not.
All right. Well, that's better than what we've had so far, so
Thanks.
appreciate that.
Ms. Stevens, let me answer a question you asked her. They did apply for an entrance permit, and the highway department turned them down because they didn't own the property.
Well, my thinking is, Mr. Owens, and I see Curtis's point, and it's hard to prove, if they're still charging. If they're saying they're not charging on social media, social media is the new news.
Yeah.
So the first thing they're going to tell the state is, hey, we're not having it commercial.
Oh, yeah.
But it won't hurt for Mr. Carter to talk to Conrad Hill down there and see if the state can do anything, Never hurts to ask.
Oh, no, but they did apply for an entrance permit, 40-foot entrance permit, and the highway department refused them because they didn't own the property where they wanted to.
Well, my thinking is if they are charging, if they look down the road, they don't have a commercial entrance.
Oh, wow.
And we may be shooting bullets in the wind.
Right.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Appreciate your time.
Armando Sakaris.
Yes, I'm Armando Sakaris. I live in 659 Sojourner Lane, Maryland, Virginia. I live adjacent to these individuals. And my case here, I corroborate with everything they say. I'm talking about Harlow Mountain. And my concern is not only the noise, the aggravation, the garbage on the side of the road that have multiplied 10 times, told whatever it used to be. Right now you go by there, it looks like a garbage dump of the traffic we have from those individuals. Now, my I'm here because my concern is this. The state road is getting loaded with the run of water from there. My problem is, I have well water. First, all my neighbors along the side of the mountains, they're all getting contaminated with muddy water like you see right there. Okay? I'm here to ask for an update to the county attorney. The last time I was here, we were supposed to have an update on this case. And it's escalating to this point where everybody's getting aggravated, nothing getting done, and we have no answers. So that they keep it running, they keep getting money, making money, because they're not making money over there, they say. So you want to take the word for it? Go for it. But my water getting contaminated. Got contaminated last year. The county's going to be held for it because you didn't do nothing about it. That's my stand. Because it's been 4 or 5 months since we came here, and they're still doing whatever they want at their own will. And it's come to the point that this driveway right here is nothing but mud all the way up to the mountain. And you got all the water runoff. The water management that comes out of the mountain, comes down to the road. If you, like one of the deputies, go up there and look at the side of the road and all the garbage that has been thrown in there. I'm sure they got a deputy drive by there and check it out. But that's my stand on the water pollution they're having up there, to the water wells.
I understand this is connected to a lot of things, and I respect your all's concerns. I get them. I understand that. What I can tell you right now is we've talked about it. We'll try to get as close of an update as where we can and try to reach out to you guys and let you know where we stand on the litigation end of things. But when it goes to the litigation end of things, that's where it stops with us. We send it there. So,
well, we'll keep coming back up here then.
Okay. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for your time. Thank you very much.
That's all that signed up to speak at citizens' time. Is there anybody else wishing to speak at this time? That being said, I'll close citizens' time.
Chairman, may I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
I think Mr. Lee had made a comment about possibly having some type of update for closed session.
Yes, that's correct.
I know that was originally on your agenda, and maybe that's something the board could consider later in the meeting.
To go back in and discuss that, okay.
I appreciate that, that's what I'm thinking too, especially if he's got an update.
Okay. Stacy Ely, Mountain States Health Alliance update. We tried to keep you as close to 5:30 as we could.
Thank you.
Mr.
Can I
Dollar?
move the podium and the microphone just as...
Sure, that's fine.
Dim the lights so that everybody can look.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. James Tyler, CEO, Smyth County Community Hospital. I just want to give you a brief update on where we are with the hospital. And we have the clock.
I'll need that later.
So with the hospital, we look at several different things. Our quality scores that we have, our patient satisfaction scores that we have. And I wanted to go over with you where those scores are now. If you look at the hospital, there are several different domains that get looked at. All this stuff gets reported to Medicare, CMS, as well as the state of Virginia. And this data is coming from the Virginia Health and Hospital Association. If you look at the different areas, and you can't see it very well here, but we're looking at the domains of cleanliness of the hospital. These are patients rating that. quietness of the hospital, responsiveness of the hospital staff, communication about medications to patients, doctor communication with the patients, sitting down with them, talking with them about their illness, nurse communication with them, again, about medications, potential side effects of the medications, discharge communication when somebody gets ready to be discharged from the hospital, giving them instructions on things that they have to do with their family doctor and like when they come home, and finally the care transitions, and last, would you rate? This is the actual scorecard, and I'm sorry you can't see the scores, but you notice everything there is green. That means that we are, in relation to the rest of the state, we are above everywhere else, in most cases, and we are above the national averages. Specifically for the hospital itself, if you look at the overall hospital rating, Smyth County, excuse me, I'm going to walk up here so I can see it better. Smyth County is tied for second in the state with regards to the overall hospital rating. For the cleanliness of the hospital, Smyth is second in the state. These are all the rural hospitals. There are 29 rural hospitals in the state of Virginia, and that's what we're comparing ourselves to. When you look at the overall quietness of the hospital environment, again, Smyth is tied for second in the state. And if you look at the responsiveness of the hospital staff, Smyth is at 5 in the state. Communication about medications, we are second in the state at that point. And communication with doctors, we are 4th in the state. Communication with nurses, we are tied for 4th with Bath County. And discharge information, we are second in the state. Care transitions, we are tied for 1st in the state. Again, that's information about your care and what you need to do following. And last, recommend the hospital, and unfortunately we're tied for 9th on that one. All of these things, all these indicators show where your hospital is. And as you can see, it's mostly 1st and 2nd on all these different quality initiatives that, again, are nationwide standards. This is what gets reported to Medicare and the like. But I want to let you know where your hospital is in comparison to the 29 rural hospitals that are in the state, and there are 87 hospitals in all in the state of Virginia. Are there any questions that you have with me about our overall ratings? Yes, sir.
I have one. And it sort of intrigues me. We're 1st, 2nd, 3rd through all of it. And then we get to the question, would you recommend the hospital? And we dropped to 9th. Why?
Well, that was an enigma to me, too. The way that question gets scored is it's on a 1 to 10 scale, and you've got to score it 8 or 9 in order to get credit for it. But, yeah, I was in church a couple weekends ago, and we had the text of Jesus going to his hometown. And so this is a little bit about the prophet in the hometown, I think, is the best way to think about that one.
Would it be anything attributed to maybe, and this is my lack of knowledge of understanding how that is scored, but maybe attributed to small range of specialties, and maybe therefore they were hospitalized, transferred, and maybe that number of patients is resulting in that score?
No, I mean, that doesn't play into it, because if a patient is transferred to another facility, then those questions are asked of them at that facility. All in all, I mean, you've really got a diamond. And I'm pleased to be able to tell you that in many ways. Now, are we going to be the end all for everybody? No, we're not. We are a community hospital in that regard, and I feel very good about the services that we provide to this community.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I would just like to say that recently we had a critical situation with my sister-in-law who had the flu, ended up in intensive care and coded, and your staff was excellent. They really did save her life. And, you know, sometimes that's more than we expect out of a small community hospital, so that was wonderful.
I walk around my hospital multiple times during the day. I try to talk with all of my staff.
Well, the staff had the pleasure later of meeting both of the people who were on duty, the nurse, hospitalist, and the nurse, and they were wonderful. You could tell they were deeply concerned about her, and she is transitioning on Redux, so that it was a very positive experience, and I commend
Thank you.
the staff for that.
I will definitely pass that along to my staff. Last thing that I want to go over, and this is an update from our August and September visits with you concerning the Comprehensive Harm Reduction Program. The Ballot Health Foundation agreed to give the Mount Rogers Health District $20,000 to augment their capital funds that they have for the actual clinic space for the Comprehensive Harm Reduction Program. In talking with Dr. Shelton last week, they have actually 4 patients now that are involved in that program, and so the numbers are continuing to grow. And to just give you an update, as far as the opioid grant that the hospital got, we hired Keith Martin as the manager of that program, and we have one of the care coordinators in place, and they're still interviewing for the second care coordinator. It's my pleasure to also introduce you to Greg Neal. Greg Neal happens to be my boss. He is the president of the Northeast region with Ballot Health, and he is the CEO of Bristol Regional.
Well, good evening. Thank you for having us. It really is a pleasure to have the opportunity to share some facts and data with you, some things that we're excited about with respect to what's happening across the Ballot Health system. And this week, actually today specifically, we've been celebrating our first birthday as an organization. It was February of last year that Ballot came into existence through the merger of the legacy systems of Mountain States Health Alliance and Wellmont Health Systems. So a little bit about my background. I've been in the area was affiliated with the Wellmont system, and I've been here for 28 years. Virtually my entire career has been in this community. My wife is a native here. We've got a lot of deep roots, our family. So know that when I talk about serving our community, I mean my community and my friends and neighbors and family members. And one of the things that's been really exciting and rewarding about the creation of Ballot is the opportunity for me to work in a very collaborative way with folks like James. It's been very rewarding to learn from him and some of the great things that we're doing here at Smyth County Community Hospital and things that we can replicate and spread across our health system and other rural communities. But if you're not familiar, the Northeast market, let me back up. We have 21 hospitals in total in the Ballot system, soon to be 22. You've probably heard that our commitment to invest in the development of the reopening a hospital in Lee County, which is something that's really unheard of in America today, period. And healthcare, for health systems to be investing in creating access points, much less hospitals in rural communities, is going way against the tide. All across the country, you can read about hospitals that are closing in rural communities. Just over the mountain, there's system that just recently was acquired by a Wall Street health system. They're closing a couple of rural hospitals. So we're excited that we're doing something really different in this region, and that our rural communities are going to be benefiting so much from our organization. Well, being a 1-year-old, just like a person who's 1 year old, there's a lot of exciting things that happen in that first year, a lot of milestones, and you're learning how to smile and how to sit up and how to eat solid food, things like that are a big deal in the family. So we've had our own sort of milestones as well that we've been celebrating, we're excited about, and I want to share a few of them with you. So one of them that probably is just representative. We could spend the entire evening talking about accomplishments and things that we've done together, but one that I think is representative of what's most important is that we improve the clinical quality of the care that we deliver to every citizen in Southwest Virginia and Northeast Tennessee. One of the ways that we're doing that is we've created a physicians clinical council. We've taken about 30 or 35 of the best and brightest physicians, surgeons across the health system, and they've come together and they're working to set the agenda for how we're going to improve quality in the health system. So in the past, when I was at Wellmont and James was at Mountain States, there wasn't a lot of us collaborating on how to make things better for each other. Unfortunately, that even extended to clinical quality improvements. But now we have a situation where we're leveraging the intellectual capital, if you will, that exists all across the system, and we're learning from each other. And so we recently, at the direction of the clinical council, set a target that all across the system, every hospital would improve our C. diff infection rate by 30% within 90 days. Well, I'm proud to say that we exceeded that. Not only did we improve by 30%, we actually achieved about 45% reduction, and we've sustained it since then. We've created a Department of Population Health to focus on improving the health of our region. So, healthcare is changing dramatically. In my career, I've spent a lot of time and energy trying to figure out how to do more surgeries, how to get more people to come to the hospital for more tests and treatments. Well, that world is shifting from, in the past, that was how you succeeded as a hospital. We're rapidly moving into an environment where my success hinges on my ability to keep people away from the hospital, to reduce the cost, which is in the best interest of all of us. And so we're being intentional about transitioning from being singularly a hospital-centric system to one that we like to call a health care or a health improvement company. So wouldn't it be great if there was less need for people in our communities to need to go to the hospital? We keep people healthier for a longer period of time. So this Department of Population Health is doing some exciting things in that arena. Building on that is we've launched this accountable care community. So we're partnering with folks like Healthy Kingsport, United Way of Southwest Virginia, and dozens of others from every corner of our service area who share our interest in improving the health status. That's their mission too. And so we've pulled this group together and we're collaborating to improve the health status. We're also excited about rolling out EPIC. So EPIC is sort of the state-of-the-art electronic medical record system in healthcare today. The majority of patient encounters across the United States today are captured on an EPIC electronic medical record system. So at Wellmont, we instituted that system several years ago, and we're now in the process of rolling that out as the standard platform for all of Ballad Health. So if you come to Smyth County Community Hospital, you go to a Ballad operated clinic, you come to Bristol Regional Medical Center or anywhere else in our system, providers would have access to your history and your records, which is very helpful in making timely decisions about your care and treatment. And so finally, just another example, we're in the process of developing a regional trauma and emergency services system. So this has gotten a lot of publicity, a lot of conversation about this. I would tell you there's a lot of misinformation about what's going on with respect to this and what the implications are for our various institutions, particularly Bristol Regional Medical Center. So I want to share a little bit more with you about what are the facts related to this creation of really an exciting new opportunity to have a integrated trauma system as opposed to the silos that we operated in before, when we had duplicative efforts, and I'll say efforts because there were lots of gaps in all of our trauma centers. By creating an integrated system, we can ensure better access to care. So I'll start at this point right there. So integral to this trauma system is the sustainability, that we are sustaining 3 trauma centers. So contrary to what you might have heard, we are going to continue to have trauma centers at Bristol Regional, at Holston Valley, and Johnson City Medical Center. So yeah, there will be changes in the designation level, but let's talk a little bit. We'll talk more about what that really means. Okay, but it's not just about the trauma centers themselves. Part of the trauma system is the opportunity for us to create a new pediatric trauma center. A pediatric trauma center is something we've never had in this region. And so at Nice Wonder Children's Hospital, it's a tremendous opportunity for us to invest in having the subspecialty expertise so that we don't treat pediatric patients like small adults, which is kind of what we do oftentimes. And we don't always have the expertise that's needed 24/7. With this, we will. And so every pediatric trauma, our intent is that we'll have the resources they need 24/7 at the pediatric trauma center. So I touched on the pediatric specialties, but we also are investing in the creation of 2 new pediatric emergency rooms at Bristol Regional and in Kingsport. So right now, this past week, had yet another planning session where we're moving forward our plans to open this summer a new pediatric emergency room at Bristol Regional Medical Center. It'll have a dedicated team, dedicated resources in the form of staff that have the training and expertise to deal with pediatric patients in the way that they should. We'll have the proper equipment, things that we don't always have on hand today when little ones come into our emergency rooms. At Bristol Regional, we see about 21 kids a day come to our emergency room. So we're excited about the opportunity to create a different experience that is specifically designed for their care. Coordinating all of this is sort of, I don't know, like a better word, the war room, a new state-of-the-art medical call center that will ensure that we have system-wide coordination in real time with seamless and timely transportation to get patients as rapidly as possible to where the resources are. They're very closely connected to the emergency rooms across every Ballard Health acute care hospital, including Smyth County Community Hospital. So that's, in a nutshell, the elements of the trauma and emergency system. So I want to share with you a little bit about, this isn't a decision that was made to create this system. It was made in some dark room, but it's been in the light of day over the last 12 months. We've been working on this and started by engaging the expertise of a guy named Greg Bishop and his team at Bishop and Associates. I've known Mr. Bishop for several years. He has a reputation across the country. He has clients in all major trauma centers across the U.S., 35 years of expertise in developing trauma centers and systems who I've spent months studying our regions, looking at the data, and ultimately made a recommendation to what is called our board integration committee. So you can see these are physicians and community leaders, volunteers, all of them, who come from all across the ballot service area, including Mr. Gary Peacock from right here in Marion. And then, so it was the unanimous, that group reached consensus on a proposal and unanimously voted and to make their recommendation to move forward to the Ballot Health Board of Directors, who also, again, composed of volunteers from throughout the region. And ultimately, it was the board's unanimous vote that we implement this decision as evidence-based practice for what's needed for our region. So there's just a quick, I guess, primer on what we're talking about. I think there's also been a lot of misinformation about what is trauma, and there's been things like concern about, well, if I have a heart attack, where am I going to go? Or what if I have a stroke? What does this have implications? So let's be clear. Trauma is an injury. So not to be confused with a heart attack or stroke or any other medical condition that you might have. And all of our facilities will have the same high level of care to provide for the needs of stroke patients, heart attack patients, and everything else that comes with those medical conditions, just like they do today. And the vast majority of trauma cases, frankly, will continue to be treated in the trauma center closest to that patient. One exciting thing about going through this process, which kind of embarrassingly we didn't really acknowledge or pick up on beforehand, was this last point. You know, one of the critical elements of our trauma system is that we're going to invest in doing trauma research, and we're excited about having the magnitude of the volume of patients that we're going to have will be give us some exciting opportunities to look particularly at trauma in rural communities. And so we found, Mr. Bishop actually pointed this out to us, how unique this was in our region, that 50% of all the trauma-related injuries in our region are from senior citizens. And 90% of those injuries are related to falls. So geriatric falls account for 45% of everything we call a trauma in Northeast Tennessee and Southwest Virginia. That's a staggering number.
That's unreal.
And tremendous opportunity for us to learn, we think, about what are some root causes of that and what can we do interventionally to prevent that. So again, wouldn't it be exciting to see far fewer numbers of trauma incidents occurring across the Commonwealth and the state of Tennessee? Here's a little more perspective on what this change means and really how relatively minor it is when you talk about volumes of encounters. So in the last, or in a recent 12-month period across our 21 emergency rooms in the ballot system, we had 449,412 visits to our emergency department. 5,190 of those were trauma cases. If my math is good, that's about 1%. Is that right? Somebody check on it. So of those trauma cases, only 488 of them are what we call severe trauma cases, which is what should be seen in a level 1 trauma center. That's what that's why level 1 exists, is to treat the most severe traumatic cases. 488 of those. So in our three trauma centers, 488 cases, 256 of which are what we're talking about could be affected by the changes that we've announced. So another way of thinking about it, 99.94% of all the encounters in our emergency departments, including trauma, is what will continue to be seen exactly as it is today. 256 is the potential number of encounters of major or severe trauma cases that rather than being seen at Bristol or Holston Valley, we think appropriately should be seen in Johnson City at the level 1 trauma center. So, we recognize that we don't operate in a vacuum. There are organizations that we depend on and we collaborate with, and the most importantly amongst those in this conversation is the EMS community. So from an air transport, let me just touch on that. There's been some misinformation out there, just to clarify. So Ballot Health currently works with 3 regional air transport services. Those include working with an organization called MedTrans that operates what is doing business as Wings Air Rescue, the Legacy Mountain States air transportation system. PHI Air Medical is the company that operates what is now doing business as Ballard One, formerly Wellmont One. And then, of course, there's our relationship with the Virginia State Police, the MedFlight service. So we have issued a request for proposal to MedTrans and PHI. I'm not sure if anyone else was. So the 2 of those looking to eliminate that redundancy, and so we work with one operator but to continue all the stations. That's the commitment that we expect. Whoever will win this contract will commit to retaining all of the stations that we currently have air transportation services based. And importantly, we will continue to support, we've communicated this to them clearly, unequivocally, our support will continue to the Virginia State Police, the MedFlight service, to continue just as we always have. We've also developed 2 new positions in this trauma system that we're excited about. One of those is VP of Trauma and Emergency Services, and that's been filled by a gentleman named Dr. Milam Testerman. I've known Milam for my entire career. He's sort of the founding father of trauma in this region. He's trained in Baltimore at the Shock and Trauma Center there, so he understands how a trauma system works in a high-functioning way. And then we've created this EMS liaison position. So Anita Perry, who's here with us tonight, has an immense amount of experience as a paramedic, a flight nurse, as a leader in EMS services across the Commonwealth and in Tennessee to work with our EMS partners. So again, squelching any misinformation you may, to the contrary, we do not and will not support development of a competing ground transport service. Rumor that I've heard, others have suggested that that's our intent. That's not the case. And also, we're not developing our own patient transportation agency of any type. We're not going to dictate how regional EMS agencies treat patients, how they transport patients. Our intent is to work as partners in a collaborative approach, and that's really Anita's role and function to ensure that we do that. So we transition a little bit because I've heard some other things, concerns in various pockets across the Northeast market of concern for some implications that this might have for Bristol Regional Medical Center and its scope of services generally. I want to assure you that Bristol Regional Medical Center is a major hub for healthcare activity generally within Ballot Health. Bristol Regional is a key component of our strategy for Northeast Tennessee and Southwest Virginia. And again, unequivocally, I can tell you that Bristol Regional Medical Center is and will remain a full-service tertiary medical center. So tertiary may be a little insider baseball term that we make sure we're all level set. Tertiary means that other hospitals refer to those centers. They refer when patients need a higher level of care, for example, than what we might have the capacity to handle appropriately here. We transport those patients to Bristol oftentimes for things such as neurosciences, neurosurgery, spine surgery, cardiovascular services like open heart surgery, interventional cardiology, oncology treatment, such as stereotactic radiosurgery, something we do. We're a leader in at Bristol Regional. orthopedic surgery. We're the only hospital in Northeast Tennessee, Southwest Virginia, between Knoxville and Roanoke, or actually further than that, I think, that is certified by the Joint Commission as an advanced center of excellence for total hip and knee replacements. We're proud of that, and we're going to continue to invest in it. Advanced imaging, a host of other things. So this change at Bristol from a level 2 to level 3 designation is an administrative one. I want to assure you that there's no intention to diminish any of the services that we currently have available at Bristol Regional. Just as an example, we're going to continue to have the same 24/7 coverage of trauma specialties that are available today, including, among a bunch of others, these three that are really critical to trauma, and that's general surgery, orthopedic surgery, and neurosurgery. At Bristol Regional Medical Center, those three specialties covered 98% of all the trauma encounters that came to Bristol Regional. That's 1,429 encounters that specialists in these three areas cared for, the admissions and consultations. And then we have also, just for the interest of time, again, every other specialty that we have available today will continue to be available. And that includes 195 surgeons and physicians in 28 different specialties who provide the 24/7 call coverage that we need to handle whatever might come to the hospital. So no plans to diminish that capacity. And in addition to that, we have over and above that, we have a total of 270 surgeons and physicians on our active medical staff. So even though the difference in those two, so that's 75 additional physicians in 3 additional specialties that aren't participating in the 24/7 call, by being on the active medical staff, they're obligated to be able to respond to a consultation within 24 hours. So we have a very robust scope of services at Bristol Regional today. Nothing will diminish with respect to that going forward. And we're really proud to serve as the hub of activity for the Northeast market. I want, as the president of the market, for all the hospitals in our region to be successful. Smyth County is a treasure, is a model of excellence for rural health care generally, but particularly in our organization. So we want every patient that can be cared for in Smyth County to remain there. But know that if they need a higher level of care, Bristol Regional is here, and now an integrated part of the system. So it's easier than ever before to get patients to the level of care they need from Smyth County. So I think that concludes our presentation, but certainly if you have any questions, we'd be happy to try to entertain them or get you an answer.
Well, I'd just like to say off the get-go is I do appreciate you coming, and Stacy and I have had some conversations in the past, and I know we're not as centralized as a lot of meetings you've had with, affecting the areas like it will be in different areas. But we had just kind of touched base, and you hear a little chatter around here, so I think it was a great opportunity for you to come and present without being on the defense, of just a informational type of for us. So I appreciate your effort in coming tonight and giving us that information, and we'll keep in contact. And I know if there's any questions that the board members have, if anybody has anything.
Thank you. We're grateful for the opportunity and ready to sit down and have dialogue anytime if you have questions.
We're all optimistic, and I know care is big for the citizens of our county, and that's what we're interested in as well. And like I said before, I know it doesn't affect us as much as it does some of the other areas that changes have been made, but I appreciate the time and reaching out. So do you guys have anything?
I have one other comment that I would like to make. With our opioid grant, as you know, part of the consortium was the Ministerial Association here in Smyth County. We had a meeting 3 weeks ago in which we had 71 pastors from Smyth County. And we know that's where the education needs to occur. We need to give our pastors skills in dealing in pastoral counseling center sessions with their parishioners about the substance abuse problem, and we are continuing to do that. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, thank you for your efforts in that, and your organization's commitment to that. That's, we all know the need.
Thank you.
Is that it? Y'all good?
We're good, are you
Okay,
good?
yep, we're good, we're good. Thank you very
Thank you,
much,
guys.
thanks for coming. Mr. Brian Reed, Blue Ridge Discovery Center, request for a grant submission.
Mr. Chairman, I think,
I haven't seen her.
Gavin.
I think Gavin Blevins is here.
Okay.
Pastor, take Mr. Reed's place.
So you all had this one last year. You all submitted a resolution for the application back to the Industrial Revitalization Fund for this application. Unfortunately, last year, Blue Ridge Discovery Center wasn't awarded that application just due to budget cuts to the total fund through the state, but we want to reapply again this year. Do you all have any questions, or do I need to go back into it from last year?
Same one, ain't changed none.
It'll change very little, just some minor updates as far as to the application based on now they've got tax credits that they've been awarded, and so those are secured, things like that.
Mr. Chairman, in the epic good time, I'll make a motion to do that resolution to allow them to apply for a grant. That's what you need, right?
Motion and a second, it's on the table, that's easy. Any more discussion?
Mr. Chairman, just one quick question. That's to be the fiscal agent,
The fiscal agent, yes.
but not a commitment for funds from the county.
No. No, it's merely for fiscal agent.
All right.
All those in favor? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you all.
Chairman, your next item, we have sent a message to have those individuals come down.
Mm-hmm.
So if you'd like, maybe we could at least take the release on the Green Valley Court.
Okay.
And I don't mind to do that. If you look at page 24 of your agenda, you'll see a letter from Mr. Tom Burkett, who's the treasurer, basically saying that attached you'll find a paid receipt from Mr. William S. Firestone et al. The receipt represents their final payment for the special assessment for the residents of Green Valley Court, and he's requesting the Board of Supervisors take the necessary action to release the lien on their property as they fulfill their financial obligations. See that last accounting on page 25. That is for consideration by the board.
It's a pleasure of the board.
I'll make a motion to release the lien.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Keep going. You want to take a break? What do you want to do? Keep going.
You got a ball game to
Appointment, committee recommendations, appointment committee, Mr. Blevins.
Yes, the appointment committee met and covered several different appointments, but we had needed to reappoint for the CMPT designee. The previous, that was filled by
Mr. Simpson.
Mr. Simpson, with his departure, there was a recommendation to appoint Mr. Michael Carter as the Community Policy Management Team designee, and that was a unanimous appointment committee recommendation.
That's a committee recommendation. Any more discussion?
Are we about to get you spread out too far?
Getting close.
You can about see through right
That's my
now.
only question.
But this is one of those that meets during the day, and a lot of individuals can't make it.
Yeah, I used to go to it, so.
Would you like to have it?
No.
Yeah, you can be switched right along.
If he's willing to do it.
It ain't been voted on yet, Charlie.
All those in favor?
We had a recommendation to appoint Mr. Todd Dishner to the Marion Downtown Revitalization Committee, one-year term from March 1st, 2019 to February 28th, 2020, and that was a unanimous recommendation.
Committee recommendation. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
We had an appointment to the Mount Rogers ASAP meeting to reappoint Mr. Ed Stringer. He was more than willing to serve. We appreciate his efforts. To the ASAP board for a 4-year term beginning February 1st, 2019 and ending January 31st, 2023, and that was a unanimous recommendation from the appointment committee.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
We had a recommendation for the Smyth Airport Commission, a joint appointment with the town of Marion. The recommendation was to reappoint Mr. Billy Dungan as the joint member for the town of Marion, the Smyth Airport Commission for a 4-year term beginning February 1st, 2019 and ending January 31st, 2023. And that was a unanimous recommendation.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Mr. Chairman, if you would, I have 2 district-specific appointments. One was for the Planning Commission. Mr. Paul Shepard has served in that capacity and has agreed to serve again. So I would like to appoint Mr. Paul Shepard for the Planning Commission from the Rye Valley District. And I would need a second.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second on the floor for Paul Shepard.
Sorry, can we make a joint motion for, I have an appointment as well. Can we kill that?
I think we got to do it
Individually? Okay.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
And our last appointment from the Rye Valley District for the Board of Zoning Appeals, the position was up. Mr. Dan Sturgill has filled that, and he has agreed to do it again, which I do appreciate from Mr. Sturgill. So I'd like to appoint Mr. Dan Sturgill for the Rye Valley District for the Board of Zoning Appeals.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Thank you.
I got 2 too, so you better jump in there.
I have an appointment for the Planning Commission. Junior Davidson expressed his interest to continue his seat on that board, so I'll appoint Junior back to that.
I'll second. I'll second.
Motion and second for Junior Davison for the Planning Commission. Any more discussion? All those in favor? That's all you have?
I don't think that you'll have a representation for the, I don't think it's up, is it? For the
Zoning Appeals.
zoning appeals?
What I had on my list was Rye Valley and 2 alternates.
Yeah, it's alternate.
We had one in Northport, didn't we? Zoning appeal. All right. Can I make a couple?
You could,
Here's Chairman.
Mm-hmm.
For the Planning Commission, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Robert Bobby Campbell at 2620 BF Buchanan Highway. Did you get that, Kelly? For those of you that don't know him, he's a lifelong resident of Smyth County, good level-headed guy, so I'll make the motion to appoint Robert Bobby Campbell to the Planning Commission.
Second.
Motion and a second on the floor. Any more discussion? of the Campbell Planning Commission. All those in favor?
One more for the Board of Zoning Appeals. I'd like to make a motion to appoint Gerald Armstrong, who is also a lifelong citizen of Smyth County, at 999 Long Hollow Road, Kelly. And if these people need to, both of these need to be sworn in, I'm sorry. Can we give them notice of that? The last guy I had on there, he wasn't even aware of that, and give them information who. Thank you.
Second is Mr. Stevenson's motion.
Got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Do I have a planning commission?
You do?
Is it David Spence?
We'll get the book and make sure.
David.
Beautification, I think, too.
Oh, yeah, I've got a beautification.
You got a what?
The area beautification.
Just raise your hand, whoever wants to go next. Charlie?
I've got the area beautification of Melissa Hall. She's a current one, and I'd like to reappoint her. She's willing to serve again.
I'll second it.
Hang on a minute.
You need to write fast.
Come on, Mr. Carter, catch up over there.
I'm good. Area beautification, right? And Charlie and Bill.
Yes.
Okay.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Mr. Chairman, I had an area beautification, Ms. Phyllis Griffith, and I'd like to reappoint her for our one-year term for area beautification.
I'll second it. I'm trying to move.
Motion and a second on the floor. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
You got it? I had a area beautification for Rachel Beverly. No, reappoint her.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
That was area beautification.
Have in.
Everybody got their
They're one-year terms.
I'll reappoint Loretta Hodgson.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor? I hadn't called mine yet, so I have to do that first.
And I'll reappoint the person that's serving from Rural District. Mm-hmm.
I'll second that too, make it a full house.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Who hasn't done area beautification? Mr. Dishner?
I gotta call it
Oh,
first.
heck, if they are up?
Well, it's a yearly. Did you?
No way.
You know, I gotta ask mine first.
Oh, I don't need to ask that, I'm looking at her husband, I'll, make a motion to, reappoint Kristen Carter, whether she likes it or not. Blame it on Mike.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Mr. Call?
Yeah.
I think you have a planning commission report.
David Spence, is that right?
He's up.
Yeah, he wants it again. I'll renominate. I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Mr. Carter, if your wife don't serve, then that will leave no choice but for you to serve.
Since you don't have none.
I'd be glad to do that. I'd be glad to do that. Okay, I think that covers the elder.
Appointment committee?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I know that we have Ms. Heather Wright, who is from the Department of Social Services
Mhm.
upstairs. Unfortunately, I think maybe we've had a small problem.
So the child was sick.
Oh,
It was Maya Furlan. I'm sure you guys are aware of the Furlan family in Smith County, but she was sick, so she was going to come tonight, but she's a temperature of 103 right now. So
leave her home.
So they're leaving her at home, so I was just going to
We have that on our agenda for tonight. If you don't care to come up and, you can give a little history, or I can, whichever. You know the story more than I. I've got that, says Maya did not want anything for Christmas other than to provide blankets for those in need. And she had collected 100 and some in blankets and gave those out to District 3 and Santa Elves clients. She is going to keep collecting blankets and giving them out all year long, and her project is called Just Takes One, because it just takes one person to make a difference. And that's very admirable, and I don't know if you wanted to add more to that. You know the story a little deeper than myself, but...
Well, the story starts out that the family, the mother, asked the children to go to their room and write what they wanted for Christmas list. Maya went to her room and said God had spoke to her and laid it on her heart that she wanted to do this for Christmas. She came back in the living room with tears in her eyes and looked at her mom and dad and said, I don't want nothing for Christmas. I just want to give back to my community. I'm worried that there's people who are cold and I don't have nothing for Christmas. And she said, I just want to give them something to make sure they're cold. This little girl worries herself so much about her community members being cold that she is constantly thinking when she passes by someone, I wonder if they're warm at night. I wonder if they were given anything at Christmas or anything. She constantly thinks of that. So I'm really close with the family, and the mom reached out at Christmas, and of course you guys know we have our Santa's Elves program. And she asked, how can Maya help her community? So I had Maya come sit with me on the day that we distributed gifts. Maya asked one simple question to her community members. Can I bless you with a blanket? And some of them were speechless. Some didn't know what to say. And when you have a child who's 10 years old look at you and hand over a nice warm blanket and just ask that simple question, it made their Christmas. And some of them didn't get anything but those blankets. I know through District 3 they don't have family members or they're in nursing homes or things, and that was their one Christmas gift they got was from Maya. So, and it's touched her heart so much that she's continuing to do it on through. She has the support of different churches, different community members. Her softball team, everybody is helping support this ministry of blanket. And it's called Just Takes One because it takes one person to inspire another person to make a difference. And it inspired all of us. So I just felt like it needed to be recognized, and she wanted to be here so bad, but she was so sick, and of course everybody in Smyth County is about sick. So that was why I asked that the board just recognize it.
Well, I'd like to extend the welcome for her to come back when she is feeling better. We do have a certificate to give of recognition, so you can get that to her, or I can, till she comes, however you would see that to work the best. So.
Whatever works for y'all.
I want this little girl to come back before the board.
Yes, sir.
Well, let me hold on to this,
Okay.
and that way we can just give it to her ourselves and just to acknowledge her accomplishments, and
All right.
we'll go from there.
Well, I appreciate
There's a
y'all.
pat on the back from everybody here.
Had a real good presentation on WCYB one night.
Mhm. And the Bristol wrote a story on her, too.
Well, thank-
She's an inspiration.
Well, thank you, and if you can line that up, we're flexible to make that happen whenever that can happen, maybe at our next meeting, and, because we would like to see her, we'd like to.
And I apologize for walking in. We're doing foster parent training upstairs.
We
so that's
got
fine.
it, we understand. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
You're in the building, correct? So you can hit the fella up the end of the table when it'll work out and coordinate that. We'd like to have her back.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
That's really cool. Budget Committee, page 27. We've had several of these already, and we're just getting ready to get started. So, Mr. Schuler came and requested funds for 3 additional part-time school resource officers. We discussed that, allowing the sheriff to run the advertisement for 3 part-time positions, requesting that after the advertisement is ran, the number of applicants who applied were interviewed and brought back to the Budget Committee to further discuss the needs to amend the current budgets. That was a committee recommendation, and I don't know that, is that kind of the cart and the horse? Do we need to vote on that as, we need to,
I think the goal of the committee was to encourage the applications and see what the results were.
so,
Is that not correct, Sheriff?
zero qualified applicants?
What I'm thinking about doing is, if you allow, I'll just go ahead and shoot it out for another 2 weeks. And draw it out of there.
We're trying here.
That's all we can
Yeah.
do is try, so.
Sharon, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Schuler, Sheriff Schuler, I know on the ad that went out, there's some kind of sheriff's deputy certification listed.
Yes.
And I also know that there are other types of certifications, like a jailer certification and different things like that.
Like that
Is
too.
there any, do we have to have, I can't remember the exact wording of it, that certification, or are there others that possibly could fill it?
I gotta have at least that. I gotta have at least, the minimum would be for what would qualify to work the courthouse. So, I mean, that's just being responsible.
I think you're being very bold by just allowing the jailers.
Yeah, that's
That puts you in all
a stretch.
Yeah.
That's a stretch, but I'm willing to go that far as having seasonal workers. I mean, I couldn't expect, I don't have great expectations of getting somebody retired, getting somebody that's not retired already to come in and do a seasonal job without insurance and with that, that's for a 10-month job. So, but I do have to have at least that, the civil liability that would attach to that would be.
I mean, I don't understand all the certifications.
Yeah. It would be, as Mr. Stevenson said, that's stretching it out there
It's a
really.
level, if I may speak, it's the level of training they have. The jailer is not as advanced in training as the situations he'll move into, and with it being a school resource officer, I'm surprised you even.
Yeah, that's a stretch, but I'm.
School resource.
Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to go that far.
Now, speak, how far off on we are, money-wise, on getting somebody, if this fails, to go, as they hope?
This was to get us through the budget year and.
Till the, all right, that's the answer.
That's why I was,
Yeah,
our kind of positions to fill out the rest of this year.
Yeah, I'll probably write something different into the budget I'll submit on Friday.
None of them old jailers that used to work courtroom security with me wanted
Most of those guys are
dead and gone.
dead and gone, or they let that certification run out.
How hard is it to reobtain?
Once you're out 3 years, you got to go back through the whole process again. That's state standard. I'll accept that.
The liability of having somebody that don't have, that's just tremendous.
Well, then that's,
But I feel like, let's shoot it back out there at least one more time. I mean, like, we got to July for the next budget year, and it's worth a shot.
we need that as a board recommendation, because that was a committee recommendation at the time, and
Authorizing to extend the deadline, maybe revamp the advertisement as he sees fit and move with it.
You added the motion, I'll make it as a motion.
I definitely second it.
motion and second on the floor. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Okay, thanks, Sheriff.
What we like, 3? I'm sorry.
3.
You might want to just stay there. I don't
Okay,
think
yes,
it's
sir.
still up.
Yeah, I mean, we're here, I'm trying to get Curtis out of here.
I've already missed it, we're good.
Then there was a budget amendment request from the sheriff requesting $70,000 to be placed into Fund 744, salaries and wages for highway safety patrol, mental health transport, and highway trash pickup. This will increase the current 18-19 budget from 87,888,151 to 87,958,151. If you have some questions, I can have Mr. Carter explain that, where it's coming from and going from. So, does anybody need any more explanation on that one? If not, that was a committee recommendation. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor?
I'm here with you.
All right. Mr. Carter then presented a budget transfer request from the Solid Waste Department. Due to renegotiating the lease from the transfer station, Mr. Carter stated that the transfer was needed to allow the proceedings of an increased lease payment due on contract changes effective October the 1st of 2018. So that was a committee recommendation, $25,000 from 0810201001 economic development salaries into the transfer station lease. And that was a committee recommendation. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor? We just handled the last one, right? We also had a budget amendment request from the CSA department. This increase will change the budgets from 87,958,151 to 88,358,151. $400,000 revenue side from CSA pool funds, the CSA used for fund balance to the CSA pool funds. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
That was a committee recommendation. Is there any more discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll just add for clarification for those that the reimbursements, the state reimburses 76.64% of that, and the county, the locality is responsible for the 23,336. That's what the breakdown of the 306,560 and the 93,440.
All those in favor? Building and Grounds Committee, Mr. Stevenson, on page 30 and 31.
I'll take part of it. I missed the last part, so I may have to let the acting chairman take that. But the first part was that had a meeting on Tuesday, January the 22nd, 4:30 p.m. And it was primarily to discuss the entrance to the Morrison building. Since there's no longer be a security guard on duty, discussion during the board meeting centered around reopening doors on the main level of the Morrison building. Discussion continued on this item, with the committee requesting for quotes to be obtained to fix the doors and information presented at a future meeting. Scott Simpson then updated the committee concerning the contract for the HVAC maintenance for all buildings. Mr. Simpson stated the contract renewed on an annual basis up to 5 years, with the latest renewal to be March 2019. An RFP had been placed in local newspapers with bids due January 23, 2019, and will be presented at future meetings for consideration. We adjourned. The next meeting now was blatantly absent at, where Rick had to pick up, so I'll give him that.
Mr. Chairman, at the Building and Grounds Committee, we had a discussion, we got the quotes on repairing the front doors. It was $1,900. So there was a recommendation made to order the necessary parts and equipment and get the doors fixed. That was a unanimous recommendation.
So is the committee recommendation? Is there any more discussion?
I just have a couple of questions. Are we talking about just fixing the doors there? Are we replacing the doors with new locks and all, or just
these two
Yeah.
doors right here, and it's panic bars, it's closures, and it's rekeying the entrance.
Okay, so it's still gonna be the same door, but it's gonna be rekeyed,
And it's
okay.
completely, the shell remains, but everything else is there.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
We also received information on two HVAC bids, Train and Cook's Mechanical. We had a motion that both vendors were qualified service providers and are set to schedule interviews to discuss the proposals in more detail. And this was a unanimous recommendation as to interview both bid proposals.
We need a motion to come from that.
Yes.
That's a committee recommendation for the interviews. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
That was all in that meeting.
Personnel committee. We met talking about the operating hours of the animal shelter. That came into question, and we discussed it with Bill Turman and some of his staff, and he was going to get that information together for us and bring it back. I guess we could go ahead and cover that now, can't we? Do we have to? Or should I go on to the next meeting? All right, that was it. Okay, that was information-wise. Then Lisa Richardson presented information concerning the mileage reimbursement policy. Smyth County currently has a .385 cents per mile, and it came out with a committee recommendation to change that rate to the IRS standard mileage rate of 58 cents a mile. And that came out of committee with the unanimous recommendation. Is there any more discussion?
Clarification, I guess. We set it to the IRS standard mileage rate, which that is for 2019. Can we not just say change it to the mileage rate? That way, when they change it in 2020, we don't have to come back and revisit this.
Based on the IRS.
Yeah, and the 58 cents is good for this year, but
Yeah.
next year, I don't want to have to every year
It
come.
changes.
Absolutely, we make that an ongoing thing within the policy, and it's adjusted automatically without bringing it back.
I think that's the way it needs to be worded, yes.
So I'll need a motion either to amend the committee's recommendation to change it to just the IRS standard mileage rate.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, we got a motion on the floor. Need a second.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? We met back, the personnel committee met back and had the animal shelter bring hours, and they are before you somewhere on your desk. Changing the operating hours. And the new hours would be Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for adoption, viewing, and reclamation. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 1 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. Animal intake would change to Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 a.m. to noon. Tuesday and Thursday would be 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Saturday, they would do intake only from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. and be closed on Sundays and closed daily for lunch from noon to 1. And the committee made a motion to recommend these new operating hours.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I guess it's up for discussion. That part. I apologize to you and Roscoe. I mean, I was the one that brought this up. And then when the meeting this took place with, I had prior commitments and couldn't be there. But look, and this is the first time I've seen this, and I know I promised y'all for a meeting if it goes my way, but wasted the evening, but I have some questions with the errors I see. The complaint come up from several people from the Chilhai area who was getting overrun with cats dropped off in certain areas, and they couldn't get to the pound at the pound was gone by the time they got off from work. The pound's not open on Saturday. Looking at this, I still have a lot of questions, and I asked Mr. Carter, and this was handed to him by Mr. Terman. I guess either I would ask you to deny the committee's request and send it back to the personnel committee. I'd like to talk to Mr. Terman and stuff to see if we can't work out a better schedule. These schedules are very, very confusing to people. We run into the same thing on our dump sites, Thursday and Friday. I hear people say, well, we cut, and I can't remember myself. We open, we close. We open, we close. I can't remember. So, I don't know. I'd like to see if we can rearrange this a little bit. Again, I apologize to both of you for not being there. So, I'm asking the board members to be in a motion, or if you want to vote on it, or I'd like to send it back to the personnel committee to sit down and go over it again.
Yeah, it's a committee recommendation. Well, if that be the pleasure, and we'll have to vote no on the committee recommendation and then make a new recommendation to.
We didn't do that, but that's fine. Didn't want to done the miles. We didn't vote on the committee recommendation. We just simply made a motion. Go ahead, that's fine. Let's vote on it. Then I made a motion.
You want to talk to him now. We didn't have to talk to anybody on that.
That's fine. Take your vote.
All right. Well, we've got a committee recommendation. Accepting new hours. All those in favor? Opposed?
Now, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to send this back to the personnel committee so we can reconvene it.
Second.
Motion and a second, send it back. Any more discussion? All those in favor? You would have kept talking if I'd cut you off.
He's about to meet his work.
I will be there on the next one.
You're
We can have them there
You're about to reach your quota. Then Mr. Carter explained the reasoning for inviting a few EDA members to the personnel member committee. We met and discussed with the EDA members over our intents for hiring explained our direction that the committee of the board of supervisors had chosen for the economic development position. Discussion continued. We explained to them, I don't know, I think it's a lot of people had this information out of kind of how our stance had been on the economic development position, but we gave that to them directly. And that was just an information session, so there was no actions taken. Water and Sewer Committee, Mr. Call.
Yes, sir. I called the meeting to order at 5:28 on January the 22nd. I want to condense this, Mr. Chairman. Scott Simpson put out RFPs for term services, and he got 10 responses back, and they were whittled down to 4. And Mr. Stevenson made a motion to accept those 4, and they were Draper, Hayden, Thomas, Glidden, Pede, and Bortax. Is that way?
Boards.
Huh?
Bortz.
Bortz, I'm sorry. And OWPR. That was committee recommendation, total term. It's annual renewal, options up to 5 years. And Mr. Ray seconded the motion, and it's committee recommendation.
There's a committee recommendation. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor?
Okay, Mr. Simpson then put out RFPs for
specific projects. You got 8 responsibles, they will come down to 4. They were Pete and Bortz, Thompson Litton, the Lane Group, and Madden and Craig. And that was also a committee recommendation.
We need to specify which ones for which one.
Yes, sir, please. Those are project specific.
What?
They're project specific.
Right, Hutton Branch, WTP evaluation. That's Pete and Bortz. With County interconnection, Pete and Bortz. East County Water Sources and Interconnection, the Lane Group. West County Water Resource Interconnection, Pete and Bortz. Daywood, Grubmore Water Extension, Pete and Bortz. Gross Close Sewer, Matt and Craig. Upper Poor Valley Road, Thomas and Litton. Pleasant Heights Sewer, that's Upper Poor Valley Sewer, I'm sorry. Thomas and Litton, and Pleasant Heights Sewer, Thomas and Litton. Mr. Ray seconded the motion. It's committee recommendation.
Committee recommendation, is there any more discussion for that one?
Just a further comment on it. What the committee done on most of this is, we all sit down, most of these people have some kind of background in each project that we put it with, Charlie, as you know. Specialized. Yeah, and they specialize in, we try to put them where they specialize the best, in our opinion. Sorry about that.
Okay, we got to vote on that?
Yeah. All those in favor?
Okay. Mr. Carter, County Administrator, informed the committee of a request that had been received from a tenant of a property on Ellison's Gap Road wishing to begin water service without the submission of a landlord authorization form due to their difficulty in reaching the property owner for a signature. The committee discussed the hardship as well as the reason the policy was originally put in place. After further discussions, Mr. Stevenson made a motion to deny the request and do not deviate from the established policy. Mr. Ray seconded the motion, the committee recommendation. Unanimous.
It's committee recommendation. You think that they've still not been able to reach the landlord, I guess?
I would find it very difficult.
His comings and goings are restricted.
Okay.
Must be in jail.
Okay.
Otherwise, he's in jail.
That's what Festus told Matt Dillon about his uncle. Comings and goings are restricted.
Sometimes it's best not to ask. That's a committee recommendation. Need any more discussion? All those in favor? Okay.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. On our additional agenda, we've got a budget committee, an emergency communications committee on the budget committee, page 17 on the additional agenda. Committee met whenever we met, February the 11th. Derek Orr from the Octagon House came and presented a request asking the county to apply for a grant from the U.S. National Park Service and Historic Revitalization. And we found out, as well as he did as well, that he knew that the Smyth County was not certified, a certified local government for that type of grant. Am I saying that right?
Yes, sir.
So, that's just kind of where that left. He said they weren't going to stop pursuing, they were going to continue to pursue, but I think the closest thing to us for that grant, would it be a grant
I'd like me to mention a couple things.
Yeah, because I'm trying to, I knew we weren't eligible, but it was like they were having to apply through us or asking us to apply.
They were asking the county to be the sub-grant.
There you go.
And there's a listing that you go on the website and look at. There are no counties in Southwest Virginia that is a certified local, according to this particular grant. The town of Avian and the town of Pulaski are certified with some of the efforts that they have taken. So once that was discovered and discussed, the committee actually asked to look into what it takes, what process is involved, and to become a certified local government, and to bring back that information at a future meeting date. I will note that wherever these projects originate from, the sub-grantee has to be the governing entity of that. In this instance, it was out at Thomas Bridge area, so even the towns aren't listed as a certified local government either, but it has to be the county in this instance. So I'm going to collect that information and bring that back at a later date.
And that was informational wise. The committee also discussed that with the recent success of economic development projects, that other budget amendments that have occurred along the way, there will be a need to amend the 2018-19 budget in order to receive and distribute the project award funds moving forward. So over the next 30 to 60 days, a final number will be determined and presented to the committee for consideration, which we're hoping that everyone kind of sees that as a positive thing with our development and our growth that we've been getting. So,
May I add one thing?
yes, sir.
The board is fully aware that upon adoption of your budget in June, that you're allowed a 1% total amendment to that adopted budget over the course of that fiscal year. We have a list with the amendments that were done today. We're about 150-some thousand away from that 1% allotment, but by receiving these trough funds and these other incentives in, I mean, irregardless of where we would have been, those in and outs will constitute that. And as you probably well know, when we reach that point, we have to advertise. Basically, it's another public hearing to determine and identify what those amendments are. But in review, and we'll certainly have that list provided to you of what amendments have occurred. I think I really don't know how anyone can not see those as positive things with all the amendments that have taken place over this current fiscal year. We'll get that to you next 30 to 60 days.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Then it was brought up that our attorney service contract is currently up for a one-year term, renewable for two successive one-year terms. And Mr. Carter let us know there were two options for consideration. One was to rebid for the services or to extend the current contract with Campbell and Associates for 1 year. And the committee unanimously agreed to extend the contract for 1 year with Campbell Associates. That was a committee recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, one more thing, and I'll hush.
No, you're going to have this next one pretty well. I'm going to give it to you.
I'll talk a little more. If you look at page 19 of that agreement, section 9, it talks about the term contract. And under that, it says, 3 sentences down, intent to renew shall be evidence in writing signed by both parties at least 60 days prior. So that's why I'm addressing that now as the date on the original is the 8th day of May. So that's why that's before you.
It is a committee recommendation. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor? Opposed?
I was late, sorry. I'm in favor.
We were both late.
We were both reading the same thing.
This is to approve the existing contract for another year?
To renew the contract, current contract.
And did we get bids? Last, but not this year?
Not
Okay, all right,
You good?
I'm good.
So,
No.
okay, so let me do that again. All those in favor? And opposed? Okay, thank you. Emergency Communications Committee, that was me, or is for me to talk about, but I would like for Mr. Carter, if he would, I kind of covered most of the budget ones tonight, so, other than you having to ad-lib for me a time or two, but I would appreciate if you would dive into that one for us.
I will make a fair attempt.
Have we gotten conversation from?
I have. To begin with, everyone's familiar with the EMS services that are provided throughout the county by those respective agencies that do that. For some time now, there has been a concern in a financial arena for one of those agencies. Tonight, as some of you know, the Saltville Town Council also meets on the same day and close to time that we meet. So earlier tonight, there was a discussion at the Saltville Town Council meeting regarding the future of the Saltville Rescue Squad. And the information that I have been made aware of is that unfortunately there is some difficulties in the finances of that squad, and that is resulting in a serious review. And as the projections indicate, the possibility of that squad ceasing to function is now upon us within the next 3 to 6 months. What that leads to the county is the towns are chartered for certain things. The towns are chartered to provide fire protection. They're not chartered to provide EMS services. That ultimately falls back on the county. So there was a meeting here last Friday that involved our committee, which is actually Mr. Dishner, Mr. Blevins, and myself as the Director of Emergency Services. Mr. Roscoe Connell was in attendance as he has a dual role. Mr. Connell also serves on the Saltville Rescue Squad board, so we were happy to have him here with us as well. There were, as you can look on page 22 of your additional agenda, you can see that there were various other members from around the county. Sheriff was there with us as well, so we had a very in-depth conversation about this situation and where we go from here. You may have noticed over the past year or two there have been similar types of situations that occurred. We had one occur next door in Washington County when Glade Springs unfortunately had some difficulties as well. So this unfortunately isn't something brand new to our area. In conversation with the group, it's probably looking to be more the norm as we move forward as it is what we've experienced. The lack of volunteers, the associated costs that going along with covering payroll and additional expenses is just something that these squads are very challenged with in trying to meet those expectations of those that they provide those services for. There's been communication with the town of Saltville, of course, is deeply concerned about this, and as the responsible party, the county collectively got together and we discussed a few options. And those options are at least simple on paper. They're not simple in substance, but they're simple on paper. What we're faced with doing, and I think it's a recommendation of the committee, obviously time is of the essence here. We don't have a lot of time to draw out the process and to continue providing the coverage to these residents and citizens in hopes that they experience no lapse in coverage. So as I think an hour plus long discussion occurred, The outcome was to put out an RFP for EMS services countywide to begin with. And that is an attempt to gauge interest, to receive feedback and comments from those service providers that possibly could locate here in the county, but to also provide for options within that RFP to, single out quadrants that various squads cover. And if you don't know, our coverage area of the county is broken into quadrants, and those quadrants are divided up among those respective squads. So the intent was to put before the board tonight, for one, the consideration of putting out a county RFP for those services, but to also break those down into quadrants so that instead of having one, you've also got options for other designated areas within the county. This is one of the, I've been here a long time, this is a serious issue, and one that needs to be acted on quickly. Our hopes is to develop an RFP over the next 30 days, put that RFP out for probably 30 to 45 days, and then have that ample time to come back and review and make some type of determination or recommendation. But this is something that we simply cannot let go. This is something that we have to act on, consider, and move forward with. I can't tell you right now what cost that may bring. I don't know. But I can tell you it is a cost. And without having these services available, we're certainly not providing the necessary life or death remedies for those in need. So I don't like ending. We've had a good meeting. I don't like ending it that way, but this is something serious you guys really need to think about and contemplate.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
since it's going to cease to exist, what happens to the assets, Michael?
It's a good question. There are different code sections around. A lot of them identify that those assets could go to a like agency, which the interpretation of that is that perhaps one of the prospective vendors may benefit from that, but those are all things that we're trying to collectively put together and disseminate.
Yeah.
That is one option.
Is there anything to be done at the county level to stop the liquidation of assets?
I think now that there's been an official notice, I think that that's certainly on watch. Mr. Call, I don't want to put you on the spot.
There's two separate things. It can go to a like entity, like you said, as a donation. Or you can take it into court, and a judge can rule, like if a community, like if the county come up with someone who would take it over, the county could get the assets for the use of whoever takes it over. They can go to court and do that. They can bypass the law, like they have to give it to another entity. They can keep it. Like if a town of Sullivan would say, well, we're going to take it over, which we know they can't. They could get the assets to keep it going. They wouldn't have to give them away. They could keep them.
All right, nice question. Sure. Are they completely broke?
No. They're losing $25,000 a month.
Are they in debt?
No. No. They may have money coming in. It could survive 4 months. It could be 6 months. It could be 7. But we have to assume that it's going to be within 3 to 4 to get this straightened out.
This is so big for the county. But I don't know. I mean, the county tries to offer as much as they can, but I think the EMS is something that's the responsibility of the county. Now, if for whatever reason the other towns can't operate smoothly, and then all they do is quit, I suppose. They don't, it's a huge undertaking for the county to take on as a county-wide. We had a lot of representation in this meeting from the town of Marion, and Chilhowie wasn't there, I don't think. But they all have concerns and are trying to look at what the future is going to hold in that entity of EMS for the county. So that's why we're meeting, we're trying to get ahead of it, but it's pushing it a little bit more forward now because we can't drag our feet. We got to have, and I tell you, Saltville covers an enormous area.
That's the biggest in the county.
The biggest coverage area in the county. So this is us trying to move in a direction that's maybe not chosen, but is necessary to do. And the only way we're going to get real numbers is to get this RFP out.
This RFP is for people to come and actually do it, right?
It would be like hiring out your EMS for Smyth County.
I guess my next question would be, Mr. Call, do you have any idea what their budget usually runs to run the rescue squad at Salvo every year?
About $400,000 a year.
That's just Salvo rescue.
There was questions asked.
400.
There was questions asked even at that meeting. How many dollars does it take today to where we don't change a thing? Everything just operates, and that really didn't come to a number versus.
Yeah, I know, and I'm not being rude, but I wasn't at that meeting.
Yeah.
So that's why
No, I'm just saying
it
it could be an enormous number. Yes, sir. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That 400,000 you're saying, now, am I correct? And this is way green to me. The rescue squads now charge insurance companies when they come and pick you up and do stuff?
Sometimes. Salvo has a soft bill policy. The soft bill policy means when they pick up someone who has insurance, don't have insurance, if they have the ability to pay or not, they will not force them into court or prosecute them in any way or take their income or garnish them or anything. They'll bill them one, maybe two times. If they can't pay, they don't force them to.
Who keeps the books at the rescue squad? There's got to be a set of books of income, outgoing.
It's internal.
Huh?
It's internal.
You know what is, I guess the question I'm asking in my mind is how much money it's going to take to operate it if it was run in the right way. Now, I get the RFD and I'm all for it, but if we're going to move, then I want to know right and left and everything else. If they
Howie's losing $200,000 a year. All of them's losing. It's not just Salvo.
And to follow up with that,
It's a no-win situation.
I spoke with the town of Marion, I spoke with the town of Chilhowie because they were preparing for the funeral for Trooper Dow and all that, so everybody is on board with putting out an RFP countywide. I don't want to speak for them individually, but they're on board with that concept. But I think they're also on board with looking at those quadrants as being providers because there are abilities that maybe Marion or Chilhowie have that Saltville doesn't. Marion and Chilhowie combined. Saltville's fire department is separate. So there's a difference in how these things operate.
I guess that's what I'm getting at. My questions, I'm all for the RFP, but I want to see somewhere down the road on each different quadrant, as you call it, what it costs to run it, how it's being managed, and this is very, very important to the county. Probably the most important thing that's come before this board while I've been sitting here. So if we're going to get into it, instead of just getting an RFP, somewhere down the road, I want to see what each quadrant is doing, where the money's going, who's taking care of it, what way we can go.
And we will have that. Right now, this is kind of raising the curtain on all those.
Yeah.
And we don't want it to fall. We'll get that information, but right now, the first.
Yeah, I understand. I just want it clear. We need to be collecting that and having it here.
They presented that tonight, Phil, to the town council.
They did?
The squad did.
Well, you know, I'm all
We'll
for
get
that.
it too.
I'm all for that, but I don't want to just go out and say, we're gonna take a bunch of bids on it. We gotta have emergency services. I mean, you know, I said raising taxes would be the last thing I'd do, but we gotta have emergency services. But on the other hand, I wanna dissect it every way we can to do the cheapest we can. We got some accountants sitting here that can go over these things and figure some of this stuff out.
The main reason this is all happening countywide is there's no such thing anymore as volunteers. Nobody wants to volunteer their time when these guys, I know they go through, they'd go through 40 hours of training to get to where they at now. Now it's 750 hours.
Goodness.
Well, I get
They
that.
can't- They can't do it by volunteer. They gotta be paid somehow.
Well, anybody down the road could see it coming to where it was gonna have to be paid. But, you know, you go back to talking about charging insurances. You hate to see insurances charged, but you want to do what you can to collect all you can because you don't want to see the taxpayer have to pay for everybody. So I think it needs to be looked in depth, seriously.
It's the biggest, if you talk to any town council member or town manager or anybody, that's their concern. They don't care about any of our business other than what are we gonna do to lighten the load on fire and EMS that they're spending out. And so, you know, times came, we're gonna have to figure it out.
Some that are combined are being able to
Subsidize.
use, to subsidize one with the other, where they got a combined fire and rescue to go together. But just out there on your own, it's just not, it's
So
a win situation.
I guess my next question is the fire department in the same shape that the rescue squad department's in?
That I don't.
That's a town entity.
It is a town entity, even though they come out and put a fire out in the county? I mean, I'm great.
Because the towns have
The
the,
county gives them some money too for doing that.
I've wondered what you guys were sitting here for all night long, and then I seen you answering no to that question.
Well, I
so.
know why they was here.
The towns have to provide fire for the towns and not the county.
Well, they have sections that go outside the town limits, each one do. And we're very thankful they do, because that is an enormous service that they provide for the county.
These guys right here, I don't know if they personally was on the truck or not, but I know they go 4 or 5 miles into Bland.
Wow.
I mean, right, guys? They got the biggest area of anywhere. Their calls have dropped by 100.
I'm sorry, I can't. So are you a member of the fire department or the rescue?
Fire department
And rescue.
well, thank you.
So, may I ask some questions?
If you do, can we ask him to come up so we can get
Sure.
Not to put you on the spot.
First, I don't want to keep you here, but.
I've already missed it, we're good.
So I guess my question is, and I agree, I mean, we gotta do something, but I guess my question is, so it's all volunteer right now?
No volunteer.
No volunteer.
Nobody will.
Chilhowie has some volunteers.
DeSable has no volunteer.
No.
So who's manning it? Anybody?
Paid employee.
Oh, okay, so you're already paid by the town.
The majority are.
No,
it's
The rescue
incorporated,
squad
it's by itself.
Salt rescue is an individual.
Could I get you to state your name and who
Fred
you're
Sparks.
representing here tonight?
I'm with the rescue squad, Saltville Rescue Squad.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, what's
Saltville Rescue Squad,
the name?
Fred Sparks.
Fred Sparks, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So y'all are way ahead of me on some of this. So DeSable rescue members are already paid, correct?
If I'm not mistaken, they have two full-time, like a,
Actually, that's what the squad's going in the hole is payroll.
and then the rest are part-time.
Sawville just got the new director in September.
Yeah.
New EMS director in September.
So DeSable has they hired the director, they made the decision for who the director is. I mean, I'm ignorant.
He's on the board.
I'm gonna figure it out, I promise you that. Do what?
The board does. Rescue Squad Board of Directors.
Which Roscoe's on?
I got you. The town of Salvo, not down in town of Salvo, I love the place, but they've not given the Rescue Squad anything for, 12 years? Something like that.
So
No
you-
support, they've been totally self-supporting, except the county will pay for a certain amount of calls, right?
How many members does the rescue squad have in Solid? Paid members?
14 or 15.
14 paid members.
You got remember 12 are part-time and 2 are full-time.
Well, I can't remember, so I don't know.
Person, I guess that does.
You can now?
And everyone else is part-time. I think the town of Chilhowie said they had three and with.
Marion, was it Marion?
with
Three
plans to
full-time and
eventually go to
others
6 and everybody else is
30-some
part-time.
part-time.
So, Mr. Kyle, how much in the hole is payroll putting them right now?
$25,000 a month.
I remember you saying that, man. I mean, to me, this is very,
And
very
the
serious.
reason that's happened too, their calls now, I'm not gonna be exact, I know these guys may know more about it. Their calls used to be 160 calls a month, now they're 60.
Yeah.
So you can't take an organization that's been getting income from 160 calls a month, take them down to 60, and expect them to bring in the same amount of money. When you have, out of that 60, you might have 20 of them refusals, correct? They go, and it costs them to go, then the patient says, I don't want to go, they can't do anything.
Y'all get paid by the hour, right?
Yes.
What's the reason for the reduction in calls?
Well, they don't do transports.
We don't do transports. They didn't, we don't take them to dialysis or anything like that. We're strictly 911 now.
And the reason for not doing the other is?
I have no idea. That was before my time.
Is that big snafu a few years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, several years ago, when they had
They were billing.
the embezzlement,
erroneous.
they college sheriff, and all that come about, and they stopped that.
Well, this is a silly thought, but
Go ahead, I got.
we got employees, we got assets, and we have an accounting department at the county. Is there, outside of the RFP, I mean, I understand that's the trend that localities are going, but, you know, we did it with solid waste. Is it worth exploring a county department, a county EMS department? Is that something other localities are taking on, or?
I think that is possibly a result of the RFP.
Possibly a what, I'm sorry?
A result of the RFP, that's one consideration, but not to get off context or anything. But I don't know when that stops, because right now there may be one immediate need, and then another, then another, then another, and suddenly you've got this countywide effort, and
So, right now, I didn't mean to cut you off, but this is my lack of knowledge on this subject, I guess. So you got Marion, Chilhowie, and then, I mean, they respond to a large area collectively, correct?
Marion typically gets about 2,200 calls dispatched to them. Chilhowie, and this is all EMS, gets about 1,200 calls dispatched.
So then, for Sugar Grove, Sugar Grove does have a,
Sugar Grove has an EMS, they get about 158 calls.
Okay.
And on this report, and Shannon Williams, our 911 coordinator, put this report together, 827 for Solomon.
AdWolf has they do not have EMS. Okay.
Only 4 EMS in the county.
So that's it. Okay. You know, I just think as we're moving to the RFP, we also bring in Sugar Grove and Saltville and say, you know, it is what it is, guys, and, you know, there's employees there.
That's why we're building that quadrant.
Yeah, and there's employees there, there's assets there. I think, you know, and maybe as a county, we don't want that. You know, we would be better off with the RFP, but I just think when you have the assets and you have an employee base, you You got some of it licked.
I agree with you. That's why I was asking earlier. I want a detail of what it costs, where it's been, who's taking care of it, what's going on with it.
Well, that's the first thing Charlie Harrington said. He said, if you're looking to get an EMS system that makes money or breaks even, you ain't gonna do it.
Yes, ma'am.
So losing,
It was mentioned that the number of calls have gone down significantly. So proportionally, did the number of employees go down also?
We've actually went up in members. I've been there 3 years now, and we went up from, what was it? It was like 6 or 8 members.
down at one time. it was 6
Well,
or
but
8.
the thing you gotta realize is regardless of the number of calls, there's still 24 hours in a day.
I understand
So,
that.
so they, whether they go out or not, you gotta have somebody there.
Then the situation you come up on is what we were looking at. If you if you cut employees to cut that money, cut your deficit, the county EMS coordinator will say, hey, you gotta have coverage. If they call and if these guys is out, there's 2 of them there, these guys is out, they roll that call over. If you roll over so many, they're gonna shut you down. So you have to have manpower to use it.
In a call to Tannersville, I mean, they might be out 2.5 hours.
2.5, 3 hours.
Or refusal, and if another call comes in during that 2.5 hours, who picks up the second call or the third call?
Can I make a suggestion, is that this, I think it'd been mentioned earlier, this is one of the biggest calls we're gonna have to make while we're up here if this turns into that. That's not where we are now, and I know Rick and Michael and myself are on the Emergency Management Communications Committee. Well, not knowing that this was gonna be a topic of that committee till recently, I'd like for us to, it's going to come out as a recommendation to do that, so we'll have some real numbers to go by. Well, I don't know if you're adding or just waiting your turn.
Whenever I get a turn.
Is that if we go out for this RFP, then we've got the numbers that we'll need to kind of look at. But I think as this discussion goes in, even if it's not that it's a full board active conversation, that when we have the emergency management committee, I'd love to have everybody be able just to sit in the room and just put ears on it so that it's not like we have to explain, so they can, but it's hard to do that and not participate in a meeting. That would be the hard part, but I think that being that it's as big as what it is, that everybody needs to know early on where it's built from and the end result. So it's not just coming out as, here's what 3 board recommendations do. So, yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that I think I can answer maybe a couple of questions. We know what the estimate is to operate that squad for a year, and it's $400,000. That was the estimate that was provided in at least 2 meetings I've sat in. What the hope of obtaining an RFP is to compare what a private service would offer that same existing service for, and in the same time knowing that in the back that if it's way out yonder or not feasible, the alternative is still there to utilize some of the existing crew members in that capacity.
Yeah, we're not fixing that tonight by any means.
I get that.
Man, it's big.
But on down the road, since it's a major and since it may become as quick as it is, I'd like to have the figures of what it costs to run this and that, and who's in charge. I mean, you're talking about $400,000, and I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, and it's failed for a reason somewhere or another, right or wrong. Okay, that's all I want.
So you're going to have financial reports from all 4 quadrants?
Well, there's actually more qualified.
Well, whatever, okay, yeah.
I've already got your house, so it's just a matter of a couple of them.
Does the same amount cost to run CLI? More? Less?
I'd rather compile it all in.
All right, let's move on. We beat this horse enough. Huh?
They all set with fire also.
Well, so that did come out as a committee recommendation to allow Smyth County to pursue RFP for EMS services for Smyth County as a whole, and to further break down the RFP by quadrants for providers to then bid on individually as alternatives to the entire county portion. So that was what that committee that reports back here has come out with, that recommendation. So is there any more discussion? Well, that was a hard way to answer that. I'll ask that one. All those in favor? Kelly, have I gotten everything? Huh? Do we need to meet again? Well, we're all but done, but we're going to go back in closed session for some discussion after our citizens' time. So we're going to take a 5-minute break. Y'all are welcome to hang around and come back, but when we come out of closed session, we're going to comment time and adjourn. So,
Mr. Chairman?
yes, sir.
Maybe Mr. Schuler to hang around a few minutes for the open part of closed session, if he's got time. Just
We would need to invite Mr. Schuler to a closed session. Is that what we would have to do to?
Well, it's got to do with legal, so I don't know whether you need to invite him or not. He might have some information for you. If he's outside the board, do you have to invite him?
Yeah.
I don't guess you're gonna get invited. This is a tight group. They don't like inviting nobody.
It's all about outlaw, right? Correct?
No.
Well, then, I don't know.
Move on. We're good.
All right, we'll take a break and come back. You all right sitting down there while we do this?
I'm listening.
All right.
I'm charged with you.
Well,
And everything else.
I need a motion to go back into closed session.
For A7, is that correct?
Or, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion based on the Code of Virginia, Section 2.2-3711, we go back to the session to discuss A7 legal. And I don't know if Mr. Schuler is still here. If you want-
He's right out
He
there.
said let him know when he could come in.
And at the appropriate time, and invite Mr. Schuler to come in with us.
Second, if we need one.
Second, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
So are we inviting him in, or just inviting him in at a certain time, or?
I'm not sure.
Did you have questions for him about?
Yeah. These questions set out like that. If he gets off on out something else, I can't help that. This question about, yeah.
I guess it's invited.
So are you inviting him in?
I'd like to.
We've got a motion and a second to do that.
Are you gonna vote on it?
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Abstain.
So am I inviting him in?
If that,
Code of Virginia 2.2-3711, we went into closed session to discuss A7 legal.
Second.
motion and a second, any more discussion? All those in favor? Abstaining. As far as I know, do we have a meeting? We don't have another meeting, so we'll do supervisor comment time, Mr. Call.
I love every one of you, but I'm damn tired of looking at you.
I don't like that language, Mr. Call.
Mr. Ray?
We ain't closed session no more.
Yeah. Charlotte?
I just got one comment as we're looking at the huge expense and the budget that committee starting. Our project up on the mountain, we talked about this last night at the tourism meeting. Our overlook, if we don't get that going, I don't know when that grant runs out, but if we don't get it going, the county's gonna have to budget, $200,000 thereabout to pay it back, so we need to push that and keep it going.
Is Mr. Staley gonna donate that land, sell it, or what?
We got authorization for VDOT to begin the negotiation this week.
Good.
So,
Who's gonna be responsible for?
or what?
that site.
County has to get an appraisal on it first thing off, and then we'll go.
Hawks gonna take care of it,
Keeping it up.
keeping it up.
Clean and stuff.
It's not gonna be named for an individual.
I can't tell you that today. I can tell you we're gonna get an appraisal and begin to
The
go.
grant, okay.
We voted against that here on board. That's why we don't have the land.
Anything else?
No, that's it, thank you.
Mr. Stevenson? you
Yeah,
talked
we'd
about-
probably be way ahead to pay the $200,000, time we keep sheriff's department held up there and all that dang crap that's going on. So I know utilities and smoking it, but I don't know, I wish back when we got this grant, we thought about this $200,000 that had to be paid back. We took a grant on them, we didn't even have the property. So, if it's straight, I ain't for sure $200,000 ain't our cheapest way out. I guess that's my comment.
I wanted to take 2 bottles of water, keep your jaws cool tonight.
Rick, is that your comment?
What?
I'll just take 1 second, and I know this is just something that I would like us to think about. We're going into a tough budget year. I know
Yes, we
that,
are.
And it's beginning in full force. And I know in the past, there's been some requests from citizens to maybe have that available on a video. I don't know if that's possible or not, because so much happens in a budget committee meeting. So at the appropriate time, maybe we could discuss it, if it's possible.
Yeah, we would know more why the decisions, I wouldn't be asking so darn many questions.
Well, I mean, and they're open. We have a citizen that came and sat through every meeting we had the last 2 years, I guess, but they're open. I'm not saying you can rebuttal, but they are totally wide open. There's seating in there for you. If anybody wants to come and just sit in and listen for their own, I'm not saying no or yay to the taping. I'm just saying they are open committee meetings.
Yeah, I just wanted to.
Right,
bring it
sure.
to you.
That ain't a bad idea. I mean, that way we don't have to sit here and listen to questions. They can look at their video and they know whether they're happy or not time they get here. It's not a bad idea.
Well, if there's tough decisions, and, you can't always make people happy, and at least they know the rationalization. There's only so much money.
That ain't a bad idea. It's a pretty good idea.
But that's just,
Okay.
I know we all want to go home.
Sure.
so.
I don't, is that all, Ms. Watt?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
I've got a letter here. I'd like to, it said, during a time like this, we realize how much our friends mean to us. Your kind expressions of sympathy will always be remembered. The family of Edwin B.J. Whitmore. Dear Mike and Board of Supervisors and staff, thank you for the beautiful peace lily basket sent to Eddie's memorial service on January the 5th. We'll enjoy it for a long time. Mike, thanks also for coming by the church, and from you and from fond comments about Eddie in the newspaper article. I felt his service was a fitting tribute to his complex personality, energetic life, and trademark sense of humor. And I'm at peace knowing he is at rest after a well-lived life. To make Smyth County a desirable place to live and raise families. Thanks again to all. Sincerely, Beverly Haddock. I just wanted to pass that along, information to y'all. And I don't have anything, so motion to adjourn.
So much.
I'd like to thank everybody for making